But with Haaland and De Bruyne likely to pick up where they left off last season, they are still going to be a formidable force, and so that's why at the moment, before the transfer window has ended, City are my predicted winners at this point. And that probably won't surprise anyone, but can United compete with City? Well, on paper, if every player was to reach their maximum level, and I don't mean their full potential, I just mean produce what we know they can produce on a consistent basis, then United definitely have a chance. But before I go any further, are you looking to dramatically improve your fantasy football point score from last season? Well, let me tell you about the sponsor of today's video, Fantasy Football Fix, which is the perfect tool for anyone who wants to get the best possible start to this FPL season, as they provide an Elite 11 team reveal which allows you to track fantasy football's greatest ever managers in real time, with over 82 top 10,000 and 61 top 5,000 finishes. And just in my opinion, if you're not using this and someone else is, you're at a massive disadvantage. But not just that, Fantasy Football Fix also allows you to see the pre-deadline captain ownership data. The assistant manager tool also allows you to unlock transfer optimization, and you can also get predicted prices data to potentially get an advantage in the long run by increasing your team's overall value. And alongside this, they also have stats from Opta, they have predicted player points and much more. And I personally will definitely be using Fantasy Football Fix, and I'll be setting up my own fantasy football league, so I'll put a code somewhere either on the screen or in the description. So not only can you join my league, but you can also use Fantasy Football Fix to try to beat me as well. And so I'll leave it linked in the description for you to go to after this video. I think this is the first season in a while where if you look at United's defence on an individual basis, it can compete with Arsenal and Manchester City, the top two teams in the league. Onana being brought in not only improves United dramatically in possession, but also from a shot stopping point of view, sweeping and cross-claiming as well. I expect Lisandro Martinez to fully develop into a world-class centre-back this season, creating a formidable defensive partnership with Rafael Varane, but also essentially being a deep-lying playmaker in possession as well, and I would like to see him moving into midfield alongside Casemiro, in that 3-2-3 shape that we do see Ten Hag use in the middle third. As like with John Stones last season at Manchester City, I think Lisandro Martinez would thrive in that libero role. Shaw and Dalot are two fantastic starting centre-backs. I do have a video out on Dalot which I will leave linked in the description, but you've even got Malacia and Aaron Wan-Bissaka, who I think will serve a purpose and are two excellent backup fullbacks as well. Into the midfield, I definitely still think United need the addition of Amrabat, but if Man Utd comes back fit, you've got two players who can come into that midfield when needed. But if you look at that starting midfield of Casemiro with Mount and Fernandes in behind, whilst on paper it does look pretty unbalanced with Mount and Fernandes, essentially two attacking midfielders, once you factor in the whole system, the fullbacks inverting behind, I think Mount and Fernandes suit that role perfectly. Now I would say that the main question around United is how well Mount adapts. If he adapts well, I think the whole team will massively improve. It may take a bit of time for him to get used to the pace of the Premier League in this particular system, as he has been playing in pre-season. However, the real interesting thing comes up front. If you look at the amount of attacking output United have, it could be something seriously exciting. You've got Marcus Rashford, who should be getting at least 17-18 Premier League goals. In my opinion, he needs to probably get beyond the 20 goal mark. You've got Alejandro Garnacho, who's looked absolutely fantastic in pre-season, and he did score, I think, 3 goals and got 2 assists last season. I fully expect him to get 10 plus goal involvements for the whole season. I don't expect him to be a nailed-on starter, but he will get a lot more games than he did last season. I think he made around 18 or 19 Premier League starts, or just appearances, but I think he will get that number of games in starts and will probably feature in 30 plus Premier League games, I would anticipate. But if Højlund hits the ground running, Greenwood comes back to anywhere near his best, if Antony and Sancho can find some sort of consistency this season, and Martial playing at least 25 Premier League games, then I actually do think United have the sort of attack that can compete with City and Arsenal. Now these of course are massive ifs, as consistency is going to be United's main problem up front. I think Højlund will show his class, but it's whether he can do it throughout the whole season. Is he the type of striker that can pick up between 15 and 20 Premier League goals in his debut season? Or is he more likely to be around the 10 to 12 goal mark, with Martial having to pick up the slack as well? I do think if Højlund hits the ground running, Greenwood manages to come back to his best, maybe the second half of the season, then United definitely have a chance. But I just think at the moment the consistency issue is going to be a major problem. I think Martial's injury issues are definitely something you'd be worried about, particularly with Højlund not starting the first Premier League game. But I do think that the midfield and the defence give United a chance in this Premier League title race. I mean, Casemiro, Fernandes and Mount is a fantastic midfield three, particularly Fernandes and Casemiro, who I think will be big players for United. I think they'll improve on last season, as will Lisandro Martinez and Diego Dalot, and that could be enough to improve United enough to get to that title challenging level. Whether they have what it takes to get past Liverpool is going to be another story, but my Premier League prediction for United before the start of the first game is going to be second place behind City. Now for me, the reason I've put United ahead of Liverpool and Arsenal is from Arsenal's point of view, they've got a very young squad. And what tends to happen with these squads, as we saw with Liverpool under Brendan Rodgers and Pochettino when Tottenham got to the Champions League final, is that when they have a fantastic season the season before and just fall short, that seems to affect the mentality of the whole squad. Now a lot of people will point to the Community Shield and say that Arsenal clearly haven't felt any of this, but as we know from prior seasons, the Community Shield doesn't actually mean much in terms of predicting the actual season. And whilst we saw Arsenal last year going on a fantastic run until the back end of the season, I think without a recognised striker, someone who's going to guarantee them at least 15 Premier League goals, I can see them struggling during certain periods of the season. Now defensively, I think they looked fantastic against City, and I could easily see them having the best or the second best defence in the whole league. I think goal scoring is going to be the issue. I can see Saka and Martinelli dropping off in terms of their output, as to carry on what they've been doing from last season is going to take a lot. They are still young, and I can see both players regressing slightly. And for me, they needed someone brought in who can kind of pick up that goal scoring slack, and I just don't think Kai Havertz is that guy. I can see him doing well in the Champions League, however, maybe getting to the quarters or the semis, but for the Premier League, I'm going to put Arsenal in third. Now Liverpool's an interesting one because at the start of the summer, I actually tipped them to win the Premier League ahead of Manchester City. However, that was just after they'd brought in Szoboszlai and McAllister, and I expected them to bring in a defensive midfielder, as well as kind of a left-sided centre-back, left-back as well, which they haven't done. Now, they do still have a few weeks left of the transfer window, so they could still reconcile this, but at the moment, without those two players brought in, I just don't see Liverpool being able to compete for the Premier League. I just think they look far too open in the middle of the pitch, and I think they are going to be susceptible to quick transition and attacks through the centre of the pitch, particularly when the likes of McAllister and Szoboszlai are pushed high up the pitch. And of course with Trent Alexander-Arnold at right back with not much cover in front of him, I think that's going to be an issue as well. And so whilst I do think Liverpool could be a high scoring team, with me backing both Salah and Darwin Núñez to get beyond 20 Premier League goals, I think it's going to be the defensive side of Klopp's system that lets them down. But I do think Liverpool will win the Europa League, but I'm backing them for a 4th place Premier League finish. Now if you want to see the rest of my Premier League predictions, as well as my predictions for La Liga, Serie A, individual predictions, the Champions League and some others as well, then you can find the full podcast, which will be linked in the description, by signing up to my Patreon. I think you can get 7 days free as well, and after that it is £4.50 a month, but if you don't want to, you can check out some of my other videos, which I will leave linked in the description, and put your Premier League predictions in the comments section as well.